Hello everyone, today I will be doing an introduction video to the grass type in the Gym Leader Challenge format. So a quick rundown of what the Gym Leader Challenge format is, or GLC for short. The deck construction is the main difference between it and Standard, as you can only pick one type of Pokemon when you're building your deck, so you can only have water Pokemon or only grass Pokemon. And then you can only have one copy of each card with the same name in your deck. So you can only have one Froakie in your whole deck, or one Charizard in your whole deck. You pick one. And then all cards from Black and White onward are legal, so there's a very wide card pool. It's the expanded card pool. And then there's no rule box cards or ace spec cards. So no Radiance, no Prime Catcher, ace specs like that, no Prism Star cards, and no multi-price Pokemon like EX, V, VMAX. And then I will leave the ban list in the description. So Grass is a very heavily supported type in the format. You have Cherim, which lets you accelerate grass energy as much as you like during your turn. It's a Rain Dance Pokemon, but it's a stage 1, and its limitation in the standard format was that you couldn't accelerate to Rulebox Pokemon, but obviously in Gym Leader Challenge there are no Rulebox Pokemon, so it's kind of just a stage 1 Rain Dance Pokemon. And it pairs really well with Eldegoss, which lets you go get 2 basic energy from your deck once during your turn, and you can do that every turn. So it's kind of like a free Earthen Vessel where you don't have to discard a card. You just have to have a stage 1 on the field. Grass does have some pretty solid draw with Beautifly and the Stoked Straw ability, which lets you fill your hand to 6. It's kind of like the Barrel in the standard format, but you get one more card and it's on a stage 2. Roserade is a really, really good card, and its Leparfum ability lets you, when you evolve it, you can go get any card from your deck and put it into your hand. The problem with that for newer players is it's like a $20 card, so do with that information what you will. Grass has 3 of these Pokemon that let you go get a grass Pokemon and put it into your hand once during your turn. There's Grottle with the Sun-Drenched Shell, there's Grovyle with Sunshine Grace, and there's Shiinotic with the Illuminate ability. They all 3 do the same thing. Um, Grottle and Grovyle are more commonly used than Shiinotic because they can evolve into more attacking threats. Meganium is a really cool card with the Quick Ripening Herb ability, where once during your turn, you can use the ability to instantly go from a basic to a stage 2 if you have the stage 2 in your hand. And that's really cool because you can skip out on playing the stage 1s, which most decks want to play, because if you have a stage 2 line, you can only play one rare candy. So if you prize your rare candy, you're risking never getting your stage 2 out. Venusaur doubles all of your grass energy in play. Each basic grass energy provides 2 instead of 1. And this is similar to the Pokemon Go Charizard that is currently in standard. It doesn't see much play, but it exists. And then it pairs well with Rillaboom, which lets you get 2 grass energy from your deck once during your turn and attach them however you want. So by doing that, you can essentially attach 2 sets of 2 grass energy to your Pokemon once during your turn from your deck too. So you can really thin out your deck that way. Sawsbuck is another option for grass to draw cards, which it just lets you draw a card once during your turn. It's not insane, but it's still a pretty solid draw throughout the game. Um, Leavanny allows grass to be like tankier because all your grass Pokemon take 40 less damage while it's on the field. It pairs with Kricketune, which gives all your grass Pokemon 40 more HP, so you can get some really crazy numbers with your grass Pokemon when both of them are on the field. Um, Lurantis can let you do a bit more damage. It makes all your grass Pokemon do 20 more damage. We're actually getting another version of this in January with that special set. So you could potentially have 2 of them out and make your grass Pokemon do 40 more damage. Vileplume is really good for control, as it just says neither player can play any item cards from their hand. So you just completely item lock both players. You'd have to be careful because you are item locking yourself, but it's just really powerful. And then Grass does have bench barrier with the new Rabska that came out. Its attack isn't bad either, but its spherical shield is both damage and effects of attacks, so this will stop something like Sableye. Now, Grass does have plenty of attackers as well. Tropius is a newer version of it's seeing play now, where it does 130 for 2 grass and a colorless, and you move the energy back to one of your Pokemon. So it helps with that energy conservation goal. Zarude, this is the new one from Surging Sparks, where if for 2 grass and a colorless, it does 80 damage, and you can return all the energy attached to it to your hand, and then it'll do 80 more damage. So you could do 160 for 3. The other Zarude is better in lists that play the energy doubling Venusaur because it does 20 more damage for each energy attached to it. So each energy would provide 2 with the Venusaur. So each energy essentially provides 40 more damage for it. Iron Leaves is another more recent card. It's got a revenge attack, Avenging Edge, for grass and 2 colorless. It does 160 damage if any of your Pokemon were knocked out by your opponent during their last turn. Torterra is one of the best grass cards, just period. It's got 190 HP, and it does 50 damage for each of your evolution Pokemon in play. And grass is very like evolution heavy, so this could be hitting late game for like 250, 300 damage, and it's got 190 HP, so your opponent could struggle to get through it, and it could take 2 prizes. Shining Genesect, it's got the energy reload ability, which once during your turn you can move a grass energy from one of your other Pokemon to it, and then it also has one of the attacks that does 20 more damage for each grass energy attached to it. Scovillain, it's got the super spicy breath attack, which if it has any fire energy attached, it does 90 more damage, so a total of 180. And for 2 grass and or a grass and 2 colorless, this pairs nicely with the Cherim Eldegoss engine because Eldegoss does not specify grass energy; it just says basic energy. So you could go get a grass and a fire energy, attach the grass with Cherim, and manually attach the fire to do the 180. Brambleghast is one of my favorite cards. The Resilient Soul can make it just a really big body that your opponent has to get through, giving it 50 more HP for each prize card your opponent has taken. So late game, this Brambleghast can come up and just kind of sit there and force your opponent to have an answer to it, or they kind of lose. Powerful Needles is also not a bad attack. Again, really good with the energy doubling Venusaur. You flip a coin for each energy attached to it, and then it does 80 for each heads. That can get out of hand very quickly. Jumpluff, also a really cool card. It gets to attack twice each turn. It's like the Festivally Diplin that's in the standard format, but it just gets to do it. No stadium needed. It's a Rapid Strike Pokemon too, which means you can use all of the tool card scrolls that Rapid Strike has access to, and it can make it like a really powerful attacker because there's one of the scrolls that does 30 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon, and you get to do that twice, so that's 60 damage per turn. Tapu Bulu, also relatively new, also very good. It hits 220 for 4 energy, which is just kind of crazy on a basic Pokemon too. It does do 30 damage to itself, and it's only got 140 HP, so it will most likely get knocked out. But if your opponent has a threat that you like need to deal with, this is just a very good like bomb to throw at him. Sceptile, it's got the powerful Storm attack. It does 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to all your Pokemon. Again, very good with that energy doubling Venusaur. The card's just really, really good. Celebi, this one specifically can steal games with its Leap Through Time ability, where when it gets knocked out, you flip a coin, and if it's heads, you shuffle it back into your deck, and your opponent doesn't get a prize card for it. So you can just deny your opponent prizes, and its Sparkle Motion puts a damage counter on each of your opponent's Pokemon, so you can slowly be spreading, and they have a 50-50 shot of even taking a prize card for knocking it out. Buzzwole, also pretty solid attacker. It does 20 more damage for each prize card you've taken to your opponent's active Pokemon. So it can do some pretty decent damage. Kartana, big cut. If you have exactly 4 prize cards remaining, this does 120 more damage. So for 1 energy, that's pretty solid. And it is grabbable off Buddy Buddy Poffin because it does have 70 HP. And then it does have Free Retreat, so you can use it as a pivot after it has attacked with Big Cut. Now, Decidueye, also pretty cool. It's very good in spread because Tracking Shot does 80 to the active, and then it does 80 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon that has any damage counters on it. So you can do. It's 10 damage off of a Radiant Greninja for a double colorless or a double turbo. Maractus, also really good with the energy doubling Venusaur. You flip a coin for each energy attached to it, and it does 60 damage for each heads. That can also get out of hand very quickly, like the Bramblegast. There are a couple grass specific trainer cards, like Netball. Netball's really good because it gets you either a basic grass Pokemon or a grass energy card and puts it into your hand. And that's really good because it just gives you that versatility of either getting a basic or a basic energy. So it's also really good because Ball Guy sees a decent amount of play, and this lets you grab an energy off of Ball Guy. Revitalizer, it puts 2 grass Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand. It's pretty good at just recovering cards. Bug Catching Set, more recent. You look at the top 7, and you can reveal 2 in any combination of grass Pokemon and basic grass energy and put them into your hand. So it's like a Great Ball, but you get grass Pokemon or grass energy, and you get to keep 2 instead of just 1. Gardenia, heal 80 from one of your Pokemon that has any grass energy attached to it. So this again goes really well with tanky Pokemon like the Torterra or the Bramblegast that you could just make your opponent have to work harder for those KOs. Gardenia's Vigor doesn't see a lot of play, but you could make it work if you wanted to. You draw 2 cards, and if you drew any in this way, you attach up to 2 grass energy from your hand to one of your bench Pokemon. Grass has more Pokemon like ability energy acceleration, and it really doesn't need Gardenia's Vigor. Aether Paradise Conservation Area, again, can make your basic Pokemon really, really tanky, making them take 30 less. So this could get really out of hand quickly with Kricketune and Leavanny and a tool card. You could be taking like 100 less with 40 more HP. Turffield Stadium also lets grass more consistently find its evolution Pokemon because it just lets you get an evolution grass Pokemon from your deck and put it into your hand. So that's just pretty good to play. So I do have some deck lists to look at. This is Rillasaur, which does use that Venusaur and the Rillaboom to power up all your attackers. This list chooses to use the Tapu Bulu for 220, and then the Zarude and the Iron Leaves, because all of them can use their attacks for 2 energy with the Venusaur in play. So one Rillaboom lets your Tapu Bulu do 220 because the energy is doubled. So you're essentially attaching 4 grass energy to that Tapu Bulu. Cherim Eldegoss is a really cool list. The power of just having your energy accelerations be stage 1s instead of stage 2s is just insanely powerful. So it lets you like have an easier time getting your cards out because you don't have to find rare candy every turn or every game. This list does play Gladion, which lets you look at your prizes and take one of them and then replace it with Gladion. Because if your Cherim gets prized, you can be left dead in the water. Because all of your attackers, the Tapu Bulu, Zarude, and Tropius, they all need 3 energy at least to attack. And if you don't have Cherim out, you're really not accelerating that energy into play. This Turbo Wo-Chien deck, I think Wo-Chien is a really, really cool card that recently came out in Surging Sparks. For a grass and a colorless, if you have 3 or fewer cards in your deck, you get to do 120 damage to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So you can really destroy your opponent's board states late in the game, and there are plenty of ways to thin through your deck and draw cards with grass, especially if you want to go more turbo like this build. You can play Pokestop, which just takes the top three cards off of your deck. So it's always going to thin three cards out, and you get to keep any item cards you find there. Battle Compressor thins out another three, and then Explorer's Guidance will thin out six. So you can really kind of build a decently sized hand and kind of just go through your deck and then Wo-Chien your opponent at the end of the game, taking multiple prize turns. Grass does have access to a pretty powerful control deck. It's called Egg Mill, because the Executor prevents your opponents from playing any stadium cards, or sorry, not stadium cards, supporter cards, which is a very powerful effect, as most decks have to attack with item lock, and then your opponent can still play supporters and still kind of get set up that way. Grass has access to Vileplume, which is a passive item lock, so you can abuse this supporter lock too. So you can item lock and supporter lock. So if you attach Tool Jammer to your Executor while it's attacking, you can also prevent your opponent from using any tools. And then if you put down League Headquarters, you can prevent your opponent's basic Pokemon from attacking as easily, because now they need to get an extra energy on top of not being able to use tools, items, or supporters. So it's just a really oppressive deck that just goes to show that control still does exist even in the singleton format. I want to thank you all for watching. I have a couple links in the description. I've got all the deck lists that I showed in the video. I've got the official Gym Leader Challenge website. I recommend checking that out for more, like, if you want to travel further into this format. And then the Cardboard Warriors website, which has a bunch of deck lists, and it's really good for building a deck and putting it on there. I do recommend joining the Tricky Gym Discord, because there's a really like big and good GLC community there that will answer all your questions that you have. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe to like support me. This is just me trying my hand at content creation, and if you want to see more, let me know.